Okay, very exciting. We're going to be beginning the third parak of Sefer Yehoshua, and today's main discussion is should we only travel during the day or do activities in general during the day? Why or why not? We're going to do a deep dive on that. Number one. Number two is that if you haven't already been following, you should follow in order from the beginning. Go to the Yeshua playlist and you should sort them from oldest chronologically and go in order. There's a Seder over here. Pasuk says, וישכם יהושע בבקר, that Yeshua got up early in the morning, ויסעו מהשטים, and he traveled from Shitim ויבאו out of Yarden, and he went until the Jordan River. Who v'chol bnei Israel, him and all of the Jews. So this is talking about he got up early, he traveled from Shitim. We discussed in the past the significance about Shitim. We're going to discuss it again as well over here. And then he reached until the Jordan, but he didn't go. They didn't go into Israel. They waited there. Him and all the Jews. Vayalanu sham terem yavoru, and then they camped over there, they slept over there before they passed. So we see from over here that they could have went in at night, but they didn't. They didn't go in at night. They stayed there. So the question is why not? So let's go on over here. There's a very small Mitsudas over here. The Mitsudas David translates Sham Eitla Yardin. In other words, when we go back to the pasuk over here and it says that Yeshua got up early in the morning and he traveled from Shittim and he came Ad Hayardin Huvu him and all the Jews Vayelonu Sham, and they camped Sham over there. Where's over there by the Jordan before they passed in. So this is by the Jordan River. The Radak over here has a technical calculation and he has a tremendous amount of length. We'll summarize it in around 30 seconds. But basically what he says is that Moshe died. Um, well, he quotes in the beginning that B'shiva ba'adar meis Moshe, right? Chazal teaches, the rabbis teach us that Moshe died on the seventh of Adar. The source of this Radak, by the way, is the Gemara in Kedushin al Lamed Ches Alf. So that Moshe died on the seventh of Adar. And it's clear from the psukim, and then he goes through the entire calculation. And in short, what the Radak over here is saying is that they needed 30 days to mourn over Moshe. So 30 plus the 7th of Adar equals the 7th of Nisan, aka before Pesach. Now they needed also another 3 days as well to prepare. This is basically similar to uh, on Mount Sinai, on Har Sinai, where they needed the 3 days of preparation. So therefore, it comes out that it's the 10th of Nisan. Now, why couldn't they go in during the mourning period of Moshe? So the Radak over there, he likes this calculation, and he says Hakabala Nechoinahi. This is right over here by the second underline, and he likes this whole calculation. And then at the end, he says something very insightful. He doesn't, and this version of the Radak, they don't quote the source of this, but this is actually Midrash Tehillim in Mizmor Chav Daled, and there's a very important idea in Ruach HaKodesh al Ovav al Asaf, that the divine presence of Hashem or prophecy in general cannot dwell upon someone who is in a state of mourning or sad. A person has to be happy. The Gemara talks about this in many places as well. Shabbos Aflamed, many places over here. So this is basically the idea and the main purpose of this lengthy Radak over here. The Radak continues on the next page, and at the end of this Radak, he says something very interesting. He says, he quotes from Rabbi Yehuda, I'm not sure which Rabbi Yehuda this is, and he says that we say Tzidkoscha on Shabbos at Mincha. And why do we say three psukim? So some say because Moshe died at that time period on Shabbos, but the Radak doesn't like that explanation. But nevertheless, this is something that's very interesting to share. Okay, so this is the Radak over here. Now, the question is, why did they specifically go in during the that's everything on the page of the Mikras Gedolos. The question is, why specifically during the day? If they were there at night, so then why wouldn't they exactly go in at night? What's the story over there, right? Imagine a person gets a new gift, and then before they got the gift and it was finally delivered to their house, and they're so excited to finally get this gift, and then what do? They don't even open it. So something bizarre is going on over there. So the question is, why didn't they just go in? So the Ralbag has a tremendous amount of insight on this specific point, and it's noteworthy to point out that the Ralbag is not on this parak or pasuk. It's in the previous parak, and he says over here like this: "V'hine lo avros hayardim b'laylahu achar avro hashloisha." They didn't cross the Jordan at that night until after the 3 days of. Continues over here. Yamim, Shenizkir Yehoshua, Shazachar Yehoshua. They didn't cross after they waited 3 days. Why didn't they cross after those 3 days? Why didn't they just cross right then and there? Ha'echad, reason number one. Hashem wanted to publicize this this wondrous act to all of the Jewish people that they're going to be splitting the Jordan, as we're going to see, the river. Everyone knows about the splitting of the sea coming out of Egypt. This is actually much lesser known, but this is very miraculous as well. So he wanted to publicize this, in order that the Jews would have more belief in Hashem and as well as Yeshua. Yeshua wanted to make sure that this was on a clear day when everything was obvious, everything was clear, and this could be appreciated a tremendous amount. And they would appreciate Hashem more, have more faith and belief in Hashem, and as Yeshua as a leader and a prophet. That's why they waited for that fourth day. So this is talking about the 10th of Nisan. Remember, because the morning was over on the 7th of Nisan, and then they had 3 more days that they were waiting, similar to Har Sinai. That's reason number one. Says the Ralbag. Reason number two. Vashini hu Hashem Yisbarach Ratzu shehamoifes hazeh kedei lahapil ema v'pachad alkol malchi amori ve'knani. Second reason is that Hashem wanted this wondrous act to be accomplished in order to place fear on all of the Amori and Canaanite kings. Hashem wanted this to be done during the day and Yehoshua because everyone would see it. This would make it more miraculous. Everyone would fear them, all of the other nations. Third reason is Hashem wanted everyone to sanctify themselves. In other words, Hashem wanted them to prepare themselves spiritually and to get ready to go in. So that's 3 reasons why they didn't go in at night. Basically, the first 2 are similar, which are so that the Jews would appreciate it and so that other people, the other nations who they were going to be waging war against to conquer the land of Israel would fear them. And then reason 3 is in order that they would prepare themselves from a spiritual perspective. The Kli Yakar, well, first, before the Kli Yakar, the Mechilta says, and this is what he's going to talk about. Oh, we'll see this actually in here. But one point before this Kli Yakar, the Al-Shach, the article quotes the Al-Shach who says that the pasuk says Vayis'u, that they traveled. Right? You go back to the pasuk V'yashkem Mishum bebakar Vise'u, they traveled from Shitim. So the Al-Shach points out it doesn't say that Yeshua commanded them to travel. So this implies that they just traveled because they saw Yeshua doing it. That was so strong that the confidence that they had in Yeshua's leadership that they just followed him. This is actually an important lesson when it comes to educating children. That if we tell our children to do something and we do the opposite thing, or someone else in general, they're going to pick up on that. They're not going to do it. It's inconsistency. Or people who are trying to teach or get us to follow our ways. We have to be good leaders and set a good example, and then they will naturally follow on their own. I see many people personally who I deal with that their parents are distracted. They spend a lot of time on the screens for non-educational purposes, wasting time. And they themselves aren't setting proper time to learn Torah or to perform mitzvahs, good deeds. And then they expect their kids to do it. Yeah, right. It's a long stretch. Probably not going to happen. That's the idea over here. That's what the Al-Shach is saying. Deeper idea. Let's go right into the Kli Yakar. The Kli Yakar, not the Kli Yakar commentator on the Torah. There's a totally different one, lesser known one on Nach. It's more like a Likut. He gathers different ideas. He begins by quoting a Mechilta, who says that this happened in the morning. And then he says that this teaches us, there's also a Gemara in the beginning of Psachim that a person should always travel when it's day. You're going to leave when it's day and arrive when it's day. I'm going to come back to this. Nowadays, do we need to do this that we have electricity? And you also find by the Avos and other Nevi'im, we find by Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and other prophets as well. Vayashkim Avram Boker, Vayashkim Yaakov Boker. They all woke up early in the morning. Vayashkim Moka Boker. That Moshe woke up early in the morning. Vayashkim Shmuel also. So he says it's a Kal V'chomer. If these great people travel during the day, then we certainly do need to. That could be questioned because they're great people. How could we be compared to them? But anyways, also I just want to point out, if you're more interested, it talks about in other places as well that Yeshua, Vayashkim, he got up early. If you look at Perik Vav Pasuk Yud Beis, Perik Zayin Pasuk Tez Zayin, Perik Ches Pasuk Yud as well. It talks about that over there. Just forgot to mention that before. A lot happening in one shot. Easy to forget things, but just remember that now. Caught it. Okay, so that is one quick brief point that the Kli Yakar makes. Another point that he makes, he quotes a Chazal to Yalkut Shemoni that says that he got up in the morning. So we see from here, Magdim Mitzvahs, also Gemara Msachim Daf Dalet. Person should be quick and perform mitzvahs early in the morning. Another explanation is that the prayers of the righteous people are heard in the morning. Then he goes into how do you know exactly from this pasuk of Vayashkim that he got up early, you should be quick to perform mitzvahs, and that the prayers of the tzaddikim are hinted to, and he gives different allusions. Says Vayashkim Yeshua b'bakar. If you're traveling from Shitim, you didn't need to get up so early in the morning because Hashem could have carried them on the wings of an eagle, and everything was being done in a miraculous manner. Anyways, you still see that it was important to get up early to perform a mitzvah. That's what we see from over here as well. And he goes into more technicalities over here of getting up early in the morning and why it's important, and different technical sources as well to this. Getting up early in the morning. We find that all of the tzaddikim, that they got up very early in the morning, and he says, Shmuel and other prophets, they got up early in the morning to daven, Ola his boded, or to contemplate what the purpose of this in this world is. The morning is a auspicious and special time. The kindness awakens in the world. Dark, everything's dark, gloomy. Not a good time to be. Good things aren't necessarily going to happen at night. The morning is. Morning's a special time. This is the Kli Yakar. The Ma'am Loez provides a tremendous amount of insight to this pasuk over here. This pasuk over here is teaching us a few very important things. Number one, firstly, a person should strive not to travel at night, as we just saw. Right? Try to get settled before night. Why? At night, there's mazikin, there's bad spiritual damagers. Furthermore, one could very easily fall in a pit of some sort, pothole, and not see it. Or other items that you can't see. It's harder to see at night. Also, people might suspect that you're a thief. What's defined by the Avos Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, we just said that they traveled during the day. Even though all the Jews were with him, we were with Yehosha, he still didn't travel at night. Even though Shulchan Mitzvah saying Nezikin, the Gemara says Chazal teach us that a messenger to perform a mitzvah won't get damaged. Still, person isn't allowed to cause himself to enter into a dangerous place. This certainly applies if someone is just walking or just being involved with something that isn't such a mitzvah like this that we're discussing. And that's why Hashem caused it that sunset happens slowly. So that we know, the sun is coming down, we have limited time. Also, we can learn from this pasuk Zrizos that we should be quick. If we have to get a task done, don't just think about it, put it on the shelf, and then save it to get done months later. Just do it immediately. Get it done as soon as possible. That's what we see, says the Ma'am Loez. If we have the opportunity to perform a mitzvah, we shouldn't let it leaven, so to say, just like on Pesach, that we don't let the bread leaven and sit out too long, the dough rather. So too over here when it comes to mitzvah, we should do it immediately. This we learn from Yehosha himself. That what? As soon as Yehosha had the opportunity to perform the mitzvah, he did it immediately. We have a chiddush over here, tremendous insight that we can learn from this. That what? that they left from Shitim to cross the Jordan River. And it wouldn't take that much time, but still they did it as soon as possible in the morning. That's what we say, following the ways of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov as well. That's the reason Magdim and mitzvahs. Chazal teaches as well, in Mavir al mitzvah, that if we have one mitzvah in front of us, we should perform that mitzvah. And if we have the opportunity to perform it, and we shouldn't push it aside to perform another mitzvah. Not only that, if a person has the ability to perform two mitzvahs, one seems easier than the next, don't push off. Don't push it off. One seems more important than the next, and the other one that you're going to perform second, it seems like it's more important. No, do the first one first. Just do it as soon as you could. That's why it says in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, "Havizar b'mitzvah kala v'chamur." Be careful with a minor or less significant mitzvah, like it is a stringent mitzvah, because you don't know the reward of the mitzvahs. Not only that, even if you have a lighter mitzvah now, and if you're going to do it, you're not going to be able to fulfill the better mitzvah tomorrow, so to say. Doesn't matter. Just do it right now. For example, if someone has the mitzvah of kivud of honoring Shabbos, mitzvah to honor Shabbos by eating and drinking, and Chazal teach us that we should, and we learned about this actually in depth in Hilchos Kiddush Siman Reish Aleph, that the meal, the Suda during Shabbos day, should be halachically more lavish than the meal at night. If a person is on the way and he only has 1 cup of wine, don't leave it for tomorrow. And if he leaves it for tomorrow, he can fulfill 2 mitzvahs, the mitzvah of Kiddush and the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos. Because he's going to drink the cup of wine during the meal. If he's going to drink it at night, he's only going to fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush. Just do it tonight. Chaviva mitzvah shaisa, a mitzvah is dear in its time. Okay, I have to look into this halacha lamaisa if we hold this way. I know we learned it in Hilchos Kiddush. It's just the halacha doesn't happen often, so I don't have it to my memory 100%. How we hold. I mean, I could pull it up in the Word document and all the notes that I have, but this has to be looked into more in Reish Ayin Aleph halacha lamaisa. Definitely, according to one opinion, this is halacha. I'm just, do we hold this way or not? Is the question. But anyways, we see over here how stringent a person needs to be when a mitzvah comes to his hand to perform it immediately. Do the mitzvah right now. That's the idea over here. And this is a Torah prohibition as well, learned out from Sukkim. This is why when it comes to putting on the tefillin of the hand and on the head, tefillin shayat and tefillin sharosh, we put on the hand first, and then afterwards we do the head, as we know. Why? The Torah says, "Shartim lo yisal yadecha," and then it says, "Vayulu tetavos beinecha." You shall tie it, shall wrap it on your arm, hand, which obviously is the bicep, and then it says on the head, "Makom shatina froifes," as we hold. Vayulu tetavos beinecha. We don't put it actually between our eyes; we put it on the soft spot of a child. Okay, up here, as we know. So one needs to be careful how he puts his tefillin away in his tefillin bag, that he's gonna hit the tefillin shel yad, the hand tefillin first before the rosh the next day. Because if he's gonna touch the shel rosh first, he might need to take it first. That's a problem over there. So you got to be careful. So we see again this idea of doing mitzvahs first. Similarly, how he places his talus, he has to make sure that he places his talus closer to him, so he's going to touch his talus first. Same idea, because once the mitzvah hits us, we got to do it. That's it. Very important point. Zrizus is very important, being quick to perform mitzvahs in this world. The Reish Chachma writes, by quoting the Rabbeinu Yonah, Zehirus yafim od l'adam. Being quick is very important for people. Vahi adam l'nefesh chai. To be alive. Because if you're going to be lazy, Shimu atzlan ein lo malechol malishos. Lazy person doesn't have what to eat and drink. He's too lazy to cook and eat and get drinks. Someone who's careful with his work is meshubachu. He's praiseworthy. People are going to say, "Oh wow." Find this by Eov as well. Adam la amal yulad. Chazal darshan that this is referring to that a person is created to toil by learning Torah. But person should apply this to all areas of life as well. There's some people who have a bad characteristic. They have bad characteristics. They just waste their time by sitting and just chatting all day, and they sit at a corner somewhere and they're just talking the whole day, wasting their time. They are considered despicable in the eyes of God and other people in general. At the end, they're going to end up coming to steal from people because they're going to need food. So therefore, he says it's very important someone who works and he earns truthfully, he earns his money. It's greater someone who gets pleasure from the toil of his hands more than someone who fears heaven. Someone who toils with his palms because he's going to eat bread. You are praiseworthy and it's good for you. Mara says in Brachos, I think it's Vav over there. I'm mistaken, it might be Hey. Ashrecha be'olam haza tov lach olam haba. It's going to be good for you in this world and in the next world. It's around there, somewhere in the first parak brachos. Could be Zion actually. Now that I'm thinking, gotta get it up, but whatever. Some say there's a Kli Yakam Bereshis who says if you could exercise or eat, which one should you do first? He says you see from this pasuk, Yagia Kapechas. First you should toil, and then kitochal, then you should eat. And the Rambam also talks about this. If a person's going to exercise and eat, he should first eat first. Same exact idea, very interesting and practical insight over there. Anyways, this is the idea over here, not to waste time. Similarly on this point, now with all the screen times for non-educational purposes, total waste of time. What a terrible plague that has plagued this generation. Next paragraph. The third thing we can learn from this pasuk is how important it is to pray. The mile of tefillah, because Yeshua got up early to do what? To daven. And also we find this by Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and other prophets as well. They got up early to do what? To daven. Because in the morning, midas harachamim shayletes, the characteristic of mercy of God rules in the morning. V'niftachim sharei harachamim lakabel tfilos, and the gates of mercy are opened up to accept, to receive our prayers. We should daven first. Whoever davens first and then goes out to be involved with his other activities, Hashem will cause him to have success. Because the pasuk says Sadik Lefanav Yahalich, which is the Roshei Tevos, the first letters of each of those words spell out Sali, Sadi, Lamed, and Yud, which in Aramaic means to daven. That's the idea over here. And then in his concluding paragraph to this pasuk, the Maharal Moed just wraps up by saying over here that now things are going to be switched because they are no longer in the diaspora. They're going to be entering into the Holy Land of Israel, into Eretz Yisrael, Eretz HaKodesh. They're leaving Eretz HaTameh. So therefore, the Aron is now allowed to walk in front of them. The Aron, the ark where the tablets were. So that's the idea over here. That is the Maharal Moed. The Rabbi Binyamin Eisenberger, in his Mesilas Neviim, offers some insight to this pasuk as well. He quotes this Gemara in Brachos here, Dala, that we just saw the Maharal Moed is quoting. Whoever davens first and then prays will be good. And then he says this over here teaches us a very serious lesson. That besides for the halachic prohibition that's discussed in Siman Pei Tes in the Torah and Shulchan Aruch, based on this Gemara, to be involved with one's own needs before davening. Additionally, you have the segula, you have this good omen attached to it to have hatzlacha, to have success. And someone who wants to have success with whatever he's dealing with should get up early to daven and then afterwards be involved with his needs. Hashem will cause the success to come. Quotes another point. We already discussed earlier at length that the one explanation, one of the 5 or 6 explanations that we offered as to why the spies specifically came to the house of Rachav was to be machnia and be mavatel the klipos atomo of the arayos. It was to nullify, cancel the illicit relations that were occurring. That's what happened in Shitim. That's the significance about Shitim. That's where the Jews sinned with Benois Moab, the Moabite daughters. The Gemara in Yuma Pei Vav teaches us that a Baal Tshuva of someone who was placed in the same exact scenario in which he already sinned in that place, and he overcomes that, he's a Baal Tshuva. He's considered someone who properly repented. The Be'er Moshe at length discussed, that's why Pinchas, one of the spies in Kalev, that's why they had to specifically go. That's why it was them. They left from Shitim and they came to Rachav, who was also involved with the moral acts for many years. That's what they had to fix over there. Also, we discussed at length on the pasuk early in Perek Aleph, pasuk Yira Aleph, Echinu lachem say to prepare provisions, and we spent a lot of time discussing those provisions that they were supposed to prepare, bringing into Israel. Different explanations. Either it was from a military perspective, prepare actual food, or it was spiritually they had to prepare themselves to get ready to go into Eretz Yisrael, to go into Israel, because no longer are they going to be eating the man. and they're just going to be able to learn Torah and do mitzvahs all day. Now they're going to have to work, and they still have to be careful to set aside time to learn Torah, to daven, and to be involved with mitzvahs, to pray. That's the idea. They traveled from Shitim, that unholy place where they were involved with those immoral acts, and they sanctified it when they were going into Israel. That the Lamb won't spit them up, vomit them up, as we discussed previously by quoting the Ramban. Over here, we see something very important. Why did they get in trouble over there? Explains the Rachav in Bamidbar, they got in trouble because the pasuk tells us, Yatsu ha'am l'tayil chutz l'machane Yisrael. They started traveling. That was their problem, traveling out of their camp. Vayeshav Yisrael b'shitim. They started traveling outside of their camp where they shouldn't have been. When we go out sometimes of the good environment that we're in, trouble could result from that. That's a problem. That's why all of the moral acts started. This nus. Through us guarding the holiness and the modesty that we have, when we distance ourselves from sin and these sorts of places, and when we're careful with our using our senses as they're supposed to be used, we don't look at what we're not supposed to be look at. That's us fulfilling Vayasum Shitim, us traveling away from Shitim. That's coming. That's what we're supposed to be doing over here. Just to point out one more point over here. It's a beautiful sefer called Shar Misyonim Behalacha on the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. See the recording to Ralbag.com and the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch for more details. We actually went through the entire sefer, the entire Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. In Siman Sameches Oz Dalet, he says, why is it that many people are lenient to travel nowadays at night? He says, Yesh laimar dehu mishum dema oiros dolkim bedrachim. Nowadays we have an amazing invention called electricity. The lights are lit at night. V'chein b'marchavas ha'automobile. We also have cars. We have lights in the cars also. It's all light, street lights. It says in Choshen Mishpat, in Siman Hey, in the Shach Sivkot and Dalet, as well as the Sman Sivkot and Zayin, Afagav Dein Dana Balayla, even though that a Jewish court isn't allowed to halachically adjure at night, nevertheless, Mikol Mokom Neiros Dol Kol Zina Kiyom. If there are candles that are lit, it has the halachic status of during the day, and therefore the Jewish court is in fact able to adjure and meet even at night. Sheyuchol lahakir ha'edim, because you're able to recognize the witnesses and anyone else who you need to see. So in the Kuntras Achron over here in the footnote, he says even though the Gemara says that you should only travel when it's day, he says look at Rashi and Shabbos and Chof Hayam and Beis Dibra Maskul Chova, or Haner Choshav Kiyamema, when you light a candle, or add the missing words, turn on electricity, turn on a light, it's as if it's during the day. Also the Ritva says this in Meseches Chulin on Kufta Aladam Abeis. And therefore, if there's lights on the street, it's considered day. So look, at the end of the day, you want to be stringent, you want to only do stuff during the day? No problem. We just discussed at length why a person should only be involved with those sorts of activities during the day. But nowadays, if you need to travel at night, you could, but you have to be careful for everything that we just discussed. Also, look, you got to know what your story is. If a person's going on a 3-hour car ride and they got a lot of kids and they're gonna go, out of their minds in the car, and it's very hard to get them to sit and behave in the car ride and everything, and that they sit through it so they don't vomit, etc. Travel at night, so you got to know the situation. But this are many reasons why there's an idea of traveling only at night. This is why Yeshua, only during the day. Excuse me. This is why only Yeshua, why he traveled during the day as well. Very interesting, tremendous insights to this pasuk. Okay, next time we'll continue.